the word robot, what comes to mind? Tell me what you think about, right? So they're going to throw out some ideas, whatever. And I think most kids are going to think about man-like things, like sort of transformer-looking things and whatever, right? And we're going to say, wow, you know what? There's a lot more kinds of robots than that. And we're going to do a quick PowerPoint showing pictures of different robots, like just robotic arms or machines that do that build things or whatever, right? So we're showing robots are not just man-like, but they do have abilities. And either a PowerPoint or a video, whatever I can find. And then our activity is going to be, first activity, we're going to hand out some action cards, maybe to 10 students, and it will tell you what you can do as a robot. So, for example, we might, and I won't use Jenny, but I might give Jenny this card and it says, you can jump, okay? And she will have to be a robot. And I'll say, okay, Jenny, go. What can Jenny do? Jump. Can she fly? No. No, she can't. Maybe we don't know that. I would say no, she can't. Can she swim? No, she can't. And I might say again, Jenny, go. But what can she do? She can jump. Okay, so we're going to model that. We're going to go through different robotic actions. Maybe 5 to 10 people, depending on how much time we want to spend on it. And asking can and can't questions. What we're doing is we're modeling what we're going to want them to do in a little bit. Okay? Then we're going to hand out a robot design sheet. It'll be just a linear design. We'll give them a minute to, if they want to put in eyes or whatever they want to do, put in eyes and stuff. And then it will also have on the side a place for abilities. So they have to write down, I will say, write down 5 things your robot can do. They don't have to write can at this point, but they can write swim, fly, whatever verbs they can come up with, right? We have a few verbs in the vocabulary, but that's not really our focus. Our focus is on can at this point. And then we will take a design from one of the kids when they're finished. We'll probably give them 5 to 6 minutes to do this part. Take one of the designs and say, and have the kid come up, say, okay, John, this says what your robot can do. Can he swim? No, he can't. Can he fly? Yes, he can. Can he shoot? Yes, he can. Can he eat pizza? I don't know. No, he can't, right? So we're going to model, and then they're going to take their designs in pairs, and they're going to go through that process, question process. And that'll be, and then we'll collect their designs, because we're going to reuse them. Day 2. Day 2. Objective. Students are going to compare the abilities of themselves with their robots. So we're going to hand out a Venn diagram with a vocabulary list that has certain things like take care of old people, take out the trash, whatever, this kind of thing. And so they're going to use, using their sheet, they're going to write down my robot can do, right? Me, maybe nothing. Maybe he can do nothing the robot can do, but he can do these. So he'll take these, move them up here, or to here, or to here, wherever it needs to go on the Venn diagram. And the final activity will be to write a paragraph. Using this, write a paragraph. And it doesn't have to be anything, just, my robot can jump. I can't. My robot can, I don't know, turn into a tank. I can't, right? It's just simple writing thing showing that they have learned can and can't in a simple sentence structure. Well, that's it.
Time's against us. I'm going to provide input at the end, and others are welcome as well. Thank you, Group 1. Group 2.
Go for it.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, dokies. So the theme of our unit is appropriate behavior for different situations. Okay, with that being said, when we're done with this lesson, okay, students will be able to associate appropriate behavior for, give different situations in different places. Okay, and also give commands both negative and affirmative commands for other people. Hope that makes sense. So, day number one. Our icebreaker, we're going to introduce places where you can either be noisy or be quiet. We're going to give students examples via YouTube, okay? The examples that we're going to give the students are going to be a baseball game and a basketball game where it can be noisy, and inside of a museum or a movie theater where you should be quiet, okay? Because that connects that appropriate behavior for respective places, okay? The activities. Okay, we're going to begin by using Simon Says. Okay, Simon's going to say be noisy, so we're going to expect students, to yell something out. Or Simon says be quiet. Let's go zip it up. Simon says stand up. Okay, of course we're going to stand up. Simon said sit down. Okay, and then afterwards we are going to group our students, and we're going to give one student from each group a secret location. Okay, only that one student can know where they are. And that student is going to have to, describe, give what?
The group has a secret location. No one else knows what it is, and they have to come up with the commands for the appropriate behavior. And then once everyone has their commands for their location, they will tell the rest of the class, and the class has to guess where that location is, what that location is. So if it's a library, it's sit down, be quiet, that kind of stuff.
Good job. And then we're going to wrap up this day by having students create their own posters, okay? They're going to have to choose a place, and they're going to have to write the rules for that place, okay? And that kind of cements a lot together. And with that being said, they're working on their writing skills, okay? And that way we can touch writing skills, productive skills, okay? We work with their speaking skills when they give the commands, okay? Then they have their receptive skills when they listen to us explaining to them, and when they listen to the video and whatnot, okay? Boom. Day number 2. Okay, we're going to give an icebreaker. In this icebreaker, the teachers, we're going to role play like authority figures that are in the students' lives. Okay, and we're going to role play teachers, police officers, and parents. Okay, and we're just going to act out their job function, whatnot, and the students are going to guess who we are. Okay, because that ties into what we're going to be doing next. Okay, the second activity, teachers will demonstrate a sentence pattern, like be quiet, okay, or turn on something or turn off something, okay, or write your name, okay, or be nice, sit here or sit there, okay, or talk or don't talk, okay, because if you connected all of these commands here, they can be connected with like a authoritative figure. So we try to have a connection with the personal lives. Then the third activity for this day, students are going to unscramble commands. With that being said, each student from a group is going to have a vocabulary card, okay? And they won't be able to see it. They'll be given to them with the face down, and then I guess when students give them a prompt or whatever, they're going to have to reveal that word. Okay, after they reveal the word, they're going to be out of order. So students are going to have to arrange themselves and put that sentence in the correct order, okay, in a certain amount of time. Okay? Okay, what's the last one? Third one. Students are going, okay, the fourth activity, students are going to have to choose a scenario, and then they're going to write the rules of expected behavior for that scenario on the poster. Okay? See.
I mean, very slightly. They have to, so before they chose a place with the behavior, now they're doing a scenario. Okay, so this will be an individual activity and a group activity. So individually, you are going to write the expectations for that scenario on a poster. Posters go up around the room. When everyone's done, you get sticky notes and you go to each poster and you write down what you think the scenario is, or where they may be, what they're doing. Put it on the board. When everyone has done that for each poster, you sit down. The person who the poster belongs to will read, so they're reading and writing, everyone's listening, and speaking. And then they will tell us what the correct answer is. And maybe the teacher will say, 10 people, or the student will say 10 people said this is when they're with their parents, they have to clean their room. Or 3 people said, oh, I think this is at school with a teacher. And you could have a discussion about, well, why did you think it was this scenario when actually it was this scenario? And so there can be some kind of discussion-based thing. So.
Okay. And ultimately, the students are going to say, shit, and go home.
Thank you. Right, thank you. You're welcome. Okay.
Okay, so over 2 lessons, we kicked off the icebreaker playing teacher sets. Lasted about 5 minutes. We kind of tried to guesstimate how long each one goes for. You guys might think it should take more time or less time, which is what we came up with. So after we play teacher says, and we've sort of locked down a few commands, the theme is instructional, it's the same as what he was going through. So our objective, the students will give and follow instructions, and the specific skills mostly will be listening and speaking. Okay, so coming back to this, we're going to jump. So we do the 10 commands, we choose 10 commands, and then we do the negative of that, just basically using the word don't. And we play a short game, something like students stand up, everyone stands up, and then students sit down, everyone sits down, and then students don't stand up, and the teacher stands up, and whoever stands up, they lose points or gain points or something like that. Right, so the next 15 minutes we kind of decided to do a worksheet where they'll have the positive or the negative blanked out. So it's say touch your desk, and then next to it they write don't touch your desk or something. Something similar like that, because we're keeping it quite basic, assuming that they don't know me. Reviewing, just kind of the entire class review plus this activity review. One student says touch the desk, another student says don't touch the desk, that's 1 point, they need 10 points to leave the class. Class 2. Warm up, instead of playing teacher says, the student says. We watched a YouTube vid about instructions in a different environment, so a museum or Zoom. We talked about that, plus the teacher leads a discussion about the appropriate rules, identifying rules. Yeah, have a chat. The group work is from all the rules that we've learned, what do you think is appropriate for our own classroom rules? They're limited to 5 do's, 5 don'ts, so in groups they'll choose their lucky 5 and unlucky 5. And then it's a vote for what will be that class's rules. And they go up on a rules tree or something. A rules visual, like is that awesome rules? We call that poster. And that's it.
We got lesson 1, we were talking about two things. We broke it up in locations and directions. Okay, lesson 1, 5 minutes of icebreaker, students have to identify 6 locations in your area to Google Maps. Okay? Then after that we'll do the vocabulary matchup and an association. 15 minutes. We said we're going to use spotlight.
At the end, we're going to use spotlight verification, the method that Brandon was showing us. But the matchup through the flashcards and the names of the locations and associations. Example, say it's a school desk, blackboard, book, that type of thing.
Interactive activities, we'll pick secret locations and give the directions to get to these secret locations. And then the verifications identify spotlight again. And that's it. Sweet and short. Then we move on to directions. 10-minute icebreaker, we take, first we get students to represent 9 locations, just to stand up in a ball set. We can use a tape to make rows on the floor, and they can walk along these avenues. And we give them student names, John's Avenue and Beats Road, or something like that. And who's across from, and then we use the vocabulary to say who's across from who, and in the middle, and who's on this block. And then that's 10-minute intro with the new vocabulary, and then the big finale is basically a treasure hunt, where one group will act like Siri give directions. Like, we're running out of blank map, you know, and then we'll hide a bag of chips or cookies or something in the school, and then, you know, they have to go and find it. And if they don't, well, they didn't listen.
Teaching.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Great, well done. Group 5.
Okay, all right, I'll do day one. We had the robot theme. Our introduction, well, we're under some assumptions that the students need to learn the dialogue, and that we don't know the level of the students, so we're trying to introduce information to them based on an assumption of zero information beforehand. We start off with a quick video of a robot. Did I unplug it? We start off with a quick video of a robot. Well, if it kicks in, it kicks in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay, so this is Jibo, a new robot that's coming out, I think, this year or so. So after we show that video to the students, we ask them questions. What did we just see? What can robots do? What do they think about it and everything? And then after we have introduced the idea of the robot, we use a PowerPoint presentation to introduce pictures connected to the vocabulary of the lesson. Now, we don't tell them what the vocabulary words are. We see if there's any students in the classroom that can identify this is this or this is this. If there's no one who can speak up and say what it is, then we reveal it, and we also put it in a sentence pattern with the target word underlined. After we...
The robot's
Okay, so after we have introduced all the vocabulary words, we introduce half of the dialogue. Half of the dialogue, so that we don't overwhelm maybe our lower speaking students. We go over that dialogue with the target words underlined in the dialogue, the ones that we just went over in the PPT. We also ask questions, what happened, who said it from the dialogue, to try to increase comprehension of the conversation. Instead of just having students just translate it, we want them to understand exactly, what's happening, because they'll just translate it and they won't think about the story overall. They'll just think about it word by word. So we'll ask them questions for reading comprehension. After we have gone over that, we move into applying the dialogue. Students work with a partner, pre-assigned partner. We talked about elbow groups or ABE partners, and they will have some time to practice it. We'll cut it short a little bit at the end, and maybe have a few people who want to volunteer stand up and practice in front of the group for maybe extra points. After that, we would do like a class craft game. I don't think I can pull it up fast enough because we gotta go. But it's like a team-based or individual-based. We probably do team-based because this is the first day where the teams would work together. And there would be questions from the dialogue, either asking students to use the words in the sentence for points, or to tell what one of the words from the sentence means for points. And after the end, we have a winner. And then we have our pack-up activity, which is okay. And exit and matching the vocabulary words with the pictures, and then go on to day 2. No, I'm not doing it.
I think you're doing very well. Carry on. I can
Go ahead.
So on day 2, what we're going to try to do is similar to what we've done, or we had explained in previous presentations, is repetition, repetition, repetition. In order to get students to actually memorize, not only just memorize, but also be able to apply the dialogue, they need to be able to hear it and apply it multiple times within a classroom setting. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it out again with reviewing either the original video or possibly a second one to introduce possibly the same vocab or new ones. It would be a challenge for the students if they would be able to recognize previous vocab from the previous day or previous week, versus being able to apply in new vocabulary. What we would do after that is we would move on to the second half of the dialogue that we had provided for us. This has the application of the remainder of our vocabulary. So now that we've had the initial video and the initial first half of the dialogue, we finished with the second half of the second day, which allows the students to apply all of the vocabulary that we've covered at this point in time. Once we have done that, we're going to have the students do it in groups. Once again, elbow buddies or possibly AB groups. We might even be able to mix it up. I know previous classes I've had have had students come in and number themselves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or pulling out a card, things along those lines, but it allows them to either keep in the same groups or mix it up depending on the levels of the learners. And then, during that time, they're able to, once again, review or repeat what we covered at the beginning and the previous day, as well as our new vocabulary. We have the class craft again. We can bring in the idea of team-based work towards approaching a singular goal or possibly a new one. And then we have the matching vocab and pictures again as our closing. By having the students possibly doing a competitive class craft activity in the class, we have students that are interested in applying their vocabulary and speaking up. And at the very end, when we have our matching vocab, especially with pictures or activities, it gives the students the ability to stand up and possibly physically move out these different activities, such as standing, walking, trying to fly, anything along those lines, with pictures that we have around.
Yes, for this picture, maybe a bunch of picture, a bunch of spelling, and then give to different students, and then find out the pattern to do the matchup. Yeah, so it's in England we say calendar, but
Right. I'm going to compliment you all. Well done. Are there any comments on any of these lesson plans? You'd like to add?
I will say, I think to me, all of them, in retrospect, are a bit complex maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's your reflection coming in.
I talk about mine as well. I feel there's, you know, without knowing the students exactly, it seems complex to me after teaching here. But
that's a point.
One of the nice things about doing this is that you're not just learning new ideas, but you're dragging them, you're recalling things that you've done before, and the Venn diagram. Man, I forgot about that. How good that is. You know? Yeah. It's nice to see it again. I'm trying to use it.
I really like how this group pulled in series to make it very relevant. Yeah, very
If
relevant.
it's junior high, everybody will have self.
Yeah, I love it.
You can use it now.
Actually, they literally
the
go
reason we did
hazy.
that, actually the reason we did that is it talks about apps in the lesson. It mentioned Google Maps, so we're like, let's use Google Maps for real.
Yeah.
But actually in the textbook, they brought up Google Maps themselves, so I think that's something to push.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
To the guys, you guys have been teaching in the program or taught in school before, in upper school. If this is the lesson that you get, right, how much of this, because I'm used to in the Bushy Band, this is the book I get, I don't have a Taiwanese teacher, I teach all of this. Every single thing in here is I have to teach. So how much of, if this is the book, or does it depend on the school?
You need to decide that with your co-teachers, and that's the difficult part when I say things are complex. We purposely took things that I sort of thought, being a teacher here, that I'd be able to teach, and left other things for the co-teachers to teach. So we went a little bit external from what it was and focused basically on can and can't.
Yeah.
And rather than going through
The
everything.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, just 2 lessons, and that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Just to, and you can't spend a lot of time. You can't finish one thing because you've got to move on to do the other thing. So I want to know the responsibility. So that's between you and the teachers.
This one looks
I
like
know,
three
but
lessons for the co-teacher, 1 lesson for him, 3 lessons for the co-teacher,
yeah.
1
So
lesson for him.
am I gonna be responsible for them more speaking? Where
Find out your role in your school.
Each one will have a different.
every program they'll have a day. They just want you to just talk with the kids and get them talking. That's fine. If your principal has a goal for you, like we need to hit this test score level, so I want you to work on this material. I'm giving you the materials to work with. Make sure you cover this and give them grades on this and the other. They'll let you know. If they don't just tell you, ask. And what is my role here? What is
My first question I wrote
at
down.
the end of the semester, what do you want me to have done with
Okay.
the students? What do you want to see me do? That way, at the end, everybody's happy.
And it's clear.
It's clear from the beginning. Yes.
Let me just mention, when I arrived at my school, immediately I sat down with my head of English and my director, and I asked them, what exactly do you want me to do in this school? And I did that for the first 2 months, and then I asked, can I change a few things?
Okay.
But I did that sensitively. Once they saw what I can do. Randall also reminded me of that time. And thank you, Alicia. I think overall, I'm very, very impressed. I was getting some lovely ideas from you as well. Now, it's big sound complex. So you know your strengths and you know your students' strengths. I always say, take the students from the known to the unknown. In other words, your lesson plan is like building blocks, Lego. You cannot go on to something bigger if you haven't got the foundation set. Okay? That's impossible. Otherwise, your lesson's going to fall apart. So if you can just build it on that, that way, that format, it'll be a lot easier for you. YouTubes, if you're going to use YouTubes, decide what is it that you want to get out of YouTube and what is it that you want the students to walk away with and can do with regards to that YouTube. So you might have to give them vocab around that as well. Songs, use songs, use a close, let them listen to those things, okay? But most of all, enjoy it. Your job is to teach them communicative English. That's your job. If you can go on that, you'll be safe. I want to thank you very, very much. On page 158, I've given you some websites to consider. They help me often when I can take something from one website and I look at another, so I get various ideas. And then I improvise my own kind of lesson plan. So consider those. And I just wanted to end off, and unfortunately we don't have PowerPoint now. For those of you who come from South Africa will know, possibly, the little town called Greyton. Now this is a very small, tranquil town, a countryside town in South Africa. And if you look at time zone-wise, it looks as if it stopped 200 years ago. And the lovely thing about Greyton is that in the afternoons when you're going for your walk with the dog or whatever, going up in the mountains, you come across people, they will say to you, come in for a glass of wine. And once you've had wine, then you go on to the next, and again you'll be asked. And the saying in Greyton is, may your next glass of wine be a better glass of wine. Now my job is not to make alcoholics out of you. I would like to say to you, may your next lesson not be a better lesson, but be the best lesson. And build on that. And good luck. I look forward to hearing from you.